Teenagers don't have to be angry, they don't have to be disconnected, but sadly, many of them are. And rather than speculating on how they got this way or what happened to them, what about some practical advice on how they could change? And so in this video, I want to talk directly and specifically to the frustrated and disconnected teenager. I want to give you some help that I trust will change your thinking, it will change your behaving, but more important than that, or in addition to that rather, it will change the trajectory of your life. I used to be one of those directionless, frustrated teenagers. And so these 7 things, they are proven, and they will bring change not just to the teenager's life, but to anyone. Hello everyone, I'm Rick Thomas. Thank you so much for joining me for this video. We are helping people live effective lives. There is excellent news for anyone, not just the frustrated teenager. And the reason is because these truths are transcendent and they are transformative because they are sourced in the power of the gospel that can change anybody, despite your shaping influences or your circumstances. Now, what you don't want to do as you listen to these 7 ideas is fall into that common trap that tends to ensnare too many teenagers who did not get the life that they wanted, probably from their parents. And so I'm going to mention a few things, a few snares, 7 ideas. And I hope that these words will help you, that they will seep into your heart and begin to bring that transformation that you desire. Now, initially, these things will be hard to listen to, and the reason for that is because of the hurt that you're going through, it is probably significant. I think back when I was an angry, victimized teenager who was living out rebellion, my anger was real. But there was also another story. What you saw on the outside was anger, but on the inside, I was hurting. I wanted someone to help me. And so if you are a struggling teenager, you do have help here. Everything that I'm going to share with you is in the description of this video, plus some helpful links, even a link where you can come to our website and speak on our free community forum, where we would love to advise you if we can. And so here we are, 7 things that I trust will help that you can implement into your life. Number 1, you are a victim. You are a victim. People can bounce from one extreme to the other when thinking about being a victim. The truth is, everybody is a victim to some degree. To say that you have never experienced disappointment, that you have never experienced hurt from someone, it is either dishonest, or it's over-spiritualization, or you're a person who's just not in touch with reality. There is a reason we call this world a fallen one. Everybody is imperfect. And the outcome is that we hurt people and that we are hurt by people. You want to make sure that you don't swing too far in either direction. You will play the victim card too vigorously, which you don't want to do. That is one swing in the wrong direction. And if you play the victim card too vigorously, you'll begin to manipulate people. In the beginning, you'll do that in an unwitting way. But after a while, it'll become your habit, and you could even enjoy the power that you have over others. But the other side is you don't want to pretend that everything is okay. It's not. Other people have hurt you. And so don't react to your hurts by playing the victim card too vigorously. And you don't want to ignore the truth as though it doesn't matter. That tough guy approach is merely a facade that reveals a hurting little person inside of you. And so point number 1, you are a victim. Point number 2, you are normal. The more you talk about what happened to you in humble ways, the more you're going to realize how normal you are. I'm not downplaying your pain. I am just saying that everyone has had a similar experience. Oh, yeah, there are different severities, But conceptually speaking, we all have experienced many disappointments within relationship struggles. It's not unusual for a teenager to think that they are different from other people. And if you go too far with that, it can create a sense of insecurity. Feelings of fear, inferiority, shame, guilt, they will begin to crop up, hoping to establish strongholds in your mind. Now, when this happens, you could want to overcompensate. You feel the shame and the guilt and the inferiority inside your soul, and so you overcompensate by creating a public persona that is drastically different from the hidden person of the heart. Now, if you do that, you will bury yourself under the weight of added pressure. Eventually, you'll start looking for escapes to give yourself a break from carrying the weight of a double life. And so this point number 2 is you're normal. You're like the rest of us. We all have suffered hurt. And so you are a victim, you are normal. And then number 3, your greatest need. Humility is the secret sauce that will put you on an entirely different course. The obstacle to becoming a humble soul is an angry attitude. An angry attitude will keep you from humility. And then when you take that angry attitude, you could think of it like a bucket or a cup. And so you take that angry attitude and then you fill it with entitlement. And when you mix legitimate hurt and anger together, what you have is an entitled person, and that will obliterate any possibility of humility taking root in your heart. James 4:6 is the classic verse about the difference between pride and humility. As hard as it is to lower your guard and humble yourself about what has happened to you, it's a far better choice than holding on to your anger. Ultimately, the battle in your soul is between you and the Lord. He is asking to be the authority in your life. What happens though in human warfare, we can become so horizontally fixated on what is happening to us that we can forget the vertical battle. God is sovereign, which means He rules. And what has happened in your life, it didn't come to pass without His permittance and without His oversight. Now, perhaps when you hear something like that, it angers you. If it does, it only speaks to your thoughts about the Lord. It reveals your relationship about God. If God's sovereign rule over you does not humble you, maybe you want to make that problem the starting place to work through your issues. Point number 3, your greatest need, humility. Point number 4, change your habits. As you ponder your relationship with God and how He's working in your life, you want to consider your habits also. The change process is comprehensive. It is inside your relationship with God and what is going on in your soul, but it's also an outside operation. And so simultaneous to asking the Lord to change you internally, examine what you're doing habitually. What are some of the things in your life that do not help you to mature in Christ? The temptation for many teenagers is to isolate themselves behind the walls of videos and gaming and social media. If these things are temptations for you, start the process of limiting the control that they have over you. I'm not saying that those things are evil or sinful. That's why I say limit them. Because if they are keeping you from maturing in Christ, then, well, they are wrong for you, even though they're not necessarily sinful. You want to consider the replacement principle. Everything that you take out of your life, you want to replace it with something better. You can think of it as the difference between self-centered living and other-centered living. Let me give you an illustration of that. Instead of spending all of your hours on YouTube, unless you're watching our videos, of course, and if you're watching our videos, you want to binge watch and watch them often and multiple times. But if they're not our YouTube videos, and you're just spending your time binge watching and wasting your time, that is a self-centered habit. The opposite of that, or the replacement principle, is you can go out and you can serve someone. So idea number 4, change your habits. Idea number 5, change your friends. You're changing your heart, your relationship with God and what's going on in your soul. You're changing your habits, and now you want to look at your friend list. Do your friends spur you on to love God and to love others? Do your friends spur you on to good deeds? We surround ourselves with the things that we like, and those things influence us. Paul said in 1 Corinthians 15:13 that bad companions will corrupt our morals. And so a question that you want to ask, in what ways do your friends affect you? Positively for God or adversely? After I got out of jail as a 15-year-old, I walked away from my bad friends. They were not good friends. They supplied me with alcohol. They supplied me with drugs. They supplied me with other things that were taking me down. I had to make a decision. I made a decision, and the decision was not hard. I weighed where I was and where I was heading, and I decided that that was enough. I'm done. I'm not going to walk down that road any longer with those friends. If the Lord gives you this kind of clarity, don't refuse it. Walking away from bad influences, it can be hard. I do understand it. And the result of those relationships, well, it can be painful to leave them. But for me, time in jail, it was harder on me than moving on from my past activities and associations. I've never regretted that decision, and you won't either. And so point number 5, change your friends. Point number 6, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? Most everyone senses a purpose in their lives. We believe that there is something more to life than sleeping and eating and working and sleeping and repeat. We feel eternity in our souls, as though God created us for something bigger than the mundane. Sadly, the fallenness that encompasses us, it tempts us to lose that transcendent focus. We dial in on the distractions and the disappointments, and we never reorient our minds to the higher call for living on this sublunary soil. I lived in that duality of disappointment and lack of vision for a long time. In fact, it took me decades to gain focus. You don't have to be like me. And so I'm the old guy saying, don't be like me. Do you believe there is a purpose for your life? What is it? Do you know? Now, perhaps you don't know. But what you don't want to do is to keep fixating on how bad things are while never swiveling your gaze to a grander plan. What may surprise you is how today's challenges and heartbreaks are the steps that take you to where you want to go. And I'm not giving you one of those cliche-y, impassioned, inspirational speeches with a sales pitch attached to the end of it. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just telling you that if you want to contribute something of value to this world, there is only one way. You have to crawl over mountains. And you may be standing in front of a mountain of disappointment right now. How you react to it will set the pattern to all of your future choices. And there are going to be plenty more opportunities. There are going to be plenty more disappointments or mountains. And so number 6, what is it that you want to do? And then finally, number 7, I saved this till last. You're like your parents. That's my final thought. I did put this at the end because, well, and I did want to add it as well. You're very much like your parents. I mentioned earlier that you're normal, how everyone is a victim, how we all are fallen. Do you hear the all-inclusiveness of those statements? We're all normal, we're all victims, we're all fallen. Well, that inclusiveness, it includes you and it includes your parents. You are like them. and they are like you. How does that strike you? Do you feel superior to them, or do you feel inferior to them? Do you see them as different from you? Now, I get it. You are different in the sense that your personality is different, your habits are different, your preferences are different. And I'm sure that you can list a few other things too that make you different from your parents. But you're also the same. When it comes to brokenness, fallenness, making mistakes, you're the same as they are. And it's important that you understand this. Perhaps you see their sin as worse than yours. If you're thinking from a consequential perspective, you may have a case. Consequentially, maybe what they have done to you is far worse than anything that you have done consequentially to somebody else. But I'm not talking about that. All sin is the same as far as wrongdoing. Any wrongdoing will put Christ on the cross, and it doesn't matter what kind of sin it is. What you don't want to do is to parse out your crimes against a holy God to the point to where you feel superior to another depraved soul. If you have any good qualities, it is because of the grace of God that is activated in your life, not because you're more special than your parents or anyone else. I'm talking about self-righteousness here. Now, that is the one sin that will dislodge God's power from your life. Self-righteousness is a greater than, better than attitude, and it will dislodge God's power. God comes for the broken, the bankrupt, the needy people. We all need His favor. God's favor is like a fan that blows behind you and it just moves you along with power. And we need His grace, which is why we talk about the ground being level at the cross. You and your parents are in the same boat. Perhaps the place you want to begin is here. Ask God to break your heart in another way. Maybe your heart is broken because of the things that have happened in your life, and that is sad. It's sad to me. I do understand it. But maybe your heart needs to be broken by how you think about and react to your parents. Once the hatred, the anger, the vitriol, the bitterness, the unforgiveness starts to seep out of your soul, you're on the way to getting what you want, and it will be very good. In this video, I've given you 7 things that will help you to change your life. I've directed it specifically to teenagers, but maybe it does apply to you too, even if you're not a teenager. I've listed these 7 things in the description of this video. If you want to talk to us about it, I do have a link also that will take you to our free community forums on our website. We can give you a ton more resources, and we would love to serve you that way. If this video was beneficial to you, would you do me a favor? Would you hit the subscribe button and subscribe to it? It will help us to grow organically so that we can reach more people. 7 things that can change any teenager's life, or those who are not teenagers. Thank you so much for watching the video.